So thank you again for joining. And we look forward to diving in and talking a little bit more about the Simon MBA. So just as a point of introduction, I do see some familiar names joining today. So thank you again for joining. My name is Andrew Breda. For those that don't know me, I'm our Director of Admissions here on the MBA side, and work with our full-time and part-time MBA students. Been at Simon for quite a while, and I'm very, very pleased to be joined with my colleague, Daniela. So I'll let Daniela say hello and introduce herself.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Daniela Lanis Guerrero. I serve as Assistant Director for MBA admissions, new addition to the team, and super excited to be here today with all of you and kind of get started. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniela. Daniela will be fielding some of the questions and we'll go back and forth as well in the chat. So we'll try and get some of those addressed. So just a quick overview of our agenda today. We're going to talk a little bit about what makes Simon unique and our program overview. So for those who are maybe earlier in the research phase, just a little bit of overview on Simon, talk about our integrated student experience and how we prioritize the student experience here at Simon, how all things we try and make sure are intentional in helping you move forward in your professional career, and then wrap it up with our application requirements and next steps and finish off with Q&A. So I'm going to toss it over to Daniela, who will talk about the Simon experience.
Yeah, of course. A lot of you likely joined the webinar today to really ask yourself this question, why Simon? So delving into specific aspects regarding our school, some Simon highlights. We are a top-ranked program that has a really collaborative culture where you will be working a lot on with teams, designated groups that are intentionally crafted. We have a strong commitment to EDI efforts as well. And then some programmatic factors that we really focus on is our quantitative and analytic focus. Oftentimes a phrase that's used here at Simon is unabashedly analytical, and that is implemented through academic and rigorous coursework and classwork that is also facilitated by having small classroom sizes with a small student to faculty ratio. You will see that connection with your professors more as a mentorship capacity where they will help you alongside this journey, which really feeds into the community aspect that is the breadth of Simon itself. The location is really affordable. It's really attuned to building community. So those are some aspects that you will see here at Simon. And moving on to some of the further components, we are number 32 in Best in Business, U.S. News and World Report as of this year, number 30 in Financial Times, and some of our rankings with Bloomberg Business, number 25. Recently, we're working towards the return of investment and placed as number 2 for the top 25 business schools. So you will really see that notable return of investment in your education, because that's sometimes a big question that a lot of individuals might ask themselves when pursuing graduate school. And we're really proud of our number 2 stands in most diverse MBA programs in top 50 business schools as of this last year. And then some of you guys maybe had questions related to the STEM designation or the STEM advantage as it relates to Simon. And that really comes into play, really delving into the capacity of employability that signals a quantitative rigor to future employers, that this is an optional opportunity for the full-time MBA program within any of our specializations. And once again, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. This is another advantage to our international students who can work in the US for up to 36 months. So typically you have 12 months that are designated like postgraduate work, but you can extend that up to 24 months with a STEM designated degree at Simon.
Yeah, I think it just, as Danielle mentioned, adds that another level of credentialing to your MBA experience. Again, it's not required, it's optional, but most of our students do pursue it, domestic and international. So it's and regardless of your specialization, as Danielle mentioned as well, you can choose any specialization and graduate with that STEM designated MBA.
And we are located in Rochester, New York, which is Western upstate New York, approximately 6 hours from New York City and about a 45-minute flight to New York City. We are number 2 in the most affordable housing market, which is really great. Number 4 for the foodie city, which means that we have a lot of great opportunities to sample cuisines in the area. Number 2 friendliest city in the US. And 130 different wineries in the Finger Lakes region. If you're big into hiking or being outdoors, there's a lot of beautiful hiking trails. And then we're about an hour from Niagara Falls. So a lot of things to explore in Rochester for sure.
Danielle and I are both transplants to Rochester, so we can speak to that experience as well. It's a great place to live, great place to raise a family, great schools. Most of our students go on elsewhere after the degree, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but it's a great place to spend a couple of years, certainly for your MBA experience.
And now this is a MBA sample study plan. So this is the layout for what your first and second year would look like here at Simon. For that first year, you'll notice that pre-fall, which starts in July, these are some intentional classes to have a baseline for you. So that will go into managerial economics, structural problem solving, introductory probability for finance. And then you'll see it be divided for that fall semester, fall A and B. Fall A runs from August to October, and fall B is October to December. But you'll also notice key electives. So this is an area where you can customize your assignment experience and really go into the specializations that you're interested in. And likewise, in the spring semester, you'll also see those other 2 elective opportunities and that breakdown between spring A and spring B. So that will give you the opportunity to really explore, in addition to the very intentional programmatic classes of the degree itself. You can explore those specializations. You'll then go into your summer internship, which is a key aspect of your experience. And we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation as to how our Career Center helps navigate those spaces. And then your second year, that you'll take 12 elective courses. Yes.
Thanks, Danielle. I would also add, we did a good question about experiential learning opportunities and even our international immersions. There are certainly a number of those opportunities you'll be able to take advantage of. We do have this built into the core curriculum as well. So all of our students are required to take this project elective that you see here in the spring semester of your first year. It's very unique. You're going to be working with a real life project, a real life company helping solve a business problem. So just wanted to make sure we highlighted that as well. And, on top of the opportunity to take multiple electives, of course, heading into your internship, which is a huge differentiator in your job search.
And we have 10 different specializations that filter in through focus area. So our focus are finance, marketing, consulting. And then you can delve into the 10 different specializations. And this is just general insight regarding those 10 specializations. Within our minors, there are cross-functional minors and functional minors. If you have a particular interest or area that you want to focus in within your degree pathway, that is something that you can definitely explore through these different MBA minors as well.
Yeah, and many students ask, is it possible to have more than one specialization? Is it possible to have multiple minors? Certainly, yes. That's the answer, right? The challenge is making sure the right minors fit and making sure you get all your classes in, right? So you're going to be working very closely with your academic advisor during the MBA program to just ensure that you've had all the requirements in place, both for your STEM designation as well as for your specialization requirements. And I'm going to jump back here just to mention, in terms of STEM, 50% of our core classes here in the first year are all STEM designated, right? So you're already halfway to the STEM designation just with the core curriculum. And so you're going to, have a lot of advice and personalized, attention with your academic advisor to help you make sure you're getting the rest of your electives to get that STEM specialization. But again, it's very easy to do because you're already more than halfway there with just the core MBA curriculum. So just something to keep in mind as you're planning out that STEM designation for your MBA. So we do want to talk a little bit about the class profile, and this is just a highlight of this past incoming class. So we typically are between about 110 to 120 full-time MBA students, right? Depends from year to year on the size. We don't typically want to get too much bigger than 120. That's sort of the largest we think we can sort of maintain our very small personalized approach that we have for the MBA experience. But this past year's class, we had an average of 28, 22 countries represented, over 45% women. So very, very diverse. We're typically one of the most represented MBA programs for women in the US. And so very few schools get into this high 40% range for women. We've got about 5.6 years of work experience on average in the MBA. And there was a question about level of work experience requirement for the MBA. We do not have a work experience requirement or a minimum requirement or even a maximum requirement. It is very much a holistic review of your profile relative to on an absolute basis of what are you bringing to the program, and then also relative to the pool of candidates who are also applying. This past year, the 80% range was a 620 to a 730 on the GMAT, similarly with the GRE scores you can see. And our GPA range was a 2.8 to a 3.8. So that's the 80% range. And you'll see a lot of schools talk about that 80% range. Again, you can find the average, but as long as you're in that 80% range, you have a pretty good chance of, and we would recommend submitting a GMAT score, et cetera. We'll talk about some of that during the application requirements. But we do want to talk about the integrated student experience and what our current students are experiencing here at Simon. We talked about the integrated student experience from a lens of making sure that everything that we do here at Simon, from your curriculum, your academic curriculum, to your co-curricular activities, your clubs, your experiential learning opportunities, your immersions that you're going on, that everything that you're doing is supporting you in your career search, right? And so it's a cyclical process. It's back and forth, right? There's a very fluid process here between the things that you do at Simon and ensuring that you have the support to find out, what you're doing and what are the best things, what are the best clubs to join, for example, to help you be successful in your career search. Now, you could join other clubs as well, right, that aren't aligned with your career search. But this is a thread that runs throughout our MBA program, our integrated student experience, to really help you kind of stay focused and select activities and clubs and consulting projects, for example, that might be helpful for you in reaching your career goals. Of course, that ties into our Career Management Center, which is very active and likely, I would suggest, your best resource here at Simon, that you're taking advantage of all the resources and opportunities available to you here at Simon through the Career Management Center. And this personalized approach that we take here at Simon happens before you even start, right? In February, March of every year, the students that are committed to enroll will have an opportunity to start working with our Career Management Center onboarding program very early in their commitment to Simon. And that's just something that's a really unique differentiator about Simon, because we want to give you a head start so that you're ready to go and ready to hit the ground running. When you arrive at Simon day one, we can put you in front of an alum or a recruiter, and you could be able to present your elevator pitch or have your resume ready to go to apply for jobs. And that all happens before you even step foot on campus. Of course, we have orientation and a lot of career education series that occurs during orientation and beyond. And so there are a ton of opportunities here that support you in your career search, for career changers, for career accelerators, whatever the case may be, to help you be successful in your career moving forward. And to learn more, right, about different fields and different industries that you may not even be exposed to or interested or have interest in at this point yet. Just to highlight some of our career outcomes, we've been ranked very, very high for return on investment, as Daniela mentioned earlier. Part of that is the career outcomes, right? Our students have done exceptionally well placing. We've typically been ranked in the top 10 in terms of salary and compensation for students, and very, very strong results in terms of our compensation. And so you can see the breakdown in terms of industry and functional areas here. They do vary from year to year, of course, depending on the interests of our students. Consulting has tended to be the most popular area, but finance and marketing not far behind. We do have students that also go into general management and general strategy types of roles as well. But as Daniela mentioned earlier, in terms of our specializations, there are opportunities like operations, for example, that fall within our consulting bucket, right? So you're getting that operation, supply chain coursework done within that consulting specialization. So just wanted to highlight some of our career outcomes as well. Really exceptional results here from our students. And just to highlight a few of our companies where our students are placing, this is inclusive of our international students as well. We often get asked that question. Well, where do our international students place? When we talk about 93, 91, 95% of our students that place after the MBA, the vast majority are looking at roles in the US, right? And so that they are included in this number. So when you look at our percentages here on our map, that is also inclusive of our international students who are placing here in the US. And as you can see, the MBA has reach, right? It will take you wherever you want to go. If you have specific geographic preferences, you want to work on the East Coast, you want to work on the West Coast, the MBA can really take you wherever you want to go. And in part, it's a lot based on your preferences, the coaching that we will provide, the networking opportunities that are available to you, the companies that you might have interest in working for, and the industries that are of interest. And then we help provide coaching and support along the way. Okay, another part of the integrated student experience is our Ainsley Office of Student Engagement. This is your essentially student hub here at Simon, right? This is everything from your advising and student life to all of our experiential learning and immersion opportunities here at Simon funnel through their team. So everything on the student experience side goes to the Office of Student Engagement. They are responsible for student satisfaction and really thought of as your partners throughout your MBA program here at Simon. They're very collaborative, very fun, right? We walk by their office. There's always students there. There's always something going on in the Office of Student Engagement. Essentially our student life team here at Simon. And there have been some questions about the experiential learning at Simon. We do offer a number of different project-based courses and case competitions and project-based clubs and consulting project-based clubs that you can join and be a part of. One of the most popular is our Vision Consulting Club. Those are pro bono consulting projects that our students take on. There are managing directors who solicit projects and create teams. And so anyone is welcome to join. Similar to our venture fund, they're very active in entrepreneurial and startup space and working with startups. And so very, very active clubs there that you can be a part of. In terms of our international immersions, this is really a growing area of interest. We typically have anywhere from 5 to 6 immersions a year, everywhere from South Africa to India to Brazil next year, to Switzerland we do every year, South Africa. So there are opportunities for immersion trips all over the world. Those tend to be shorter trips, about 2 weeks or so, where you're getting a cultural immersion, but those are all credit-based courses as well. So you're also getting credit for your trip, which is really nice that you're getting some opportunities to take a course as well and get some credit for the international experience. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Danielle. She's going to talk about next steps in the admissions process.
Yeah, of course. So now you might be wondering, okay, how do I break all of this down? Well, we have this wonderful application checklist for you guys. So the first thing is once the application is live, apply online, submit your transcripts from your institutions that you attended. This includes undergrad and any graduate school transcripts that you might have, your resume, and our 2 essays that are required and 2 references. Oftentimes we get asked the question if letters of recommendation are something that you need to submit, and no, we do not require letters of recommendation, just your 2 references, and we will notify you if we contact the references. There is a waiver available for students if English is not your first language and you're undergraduate or graduate coursework was not in English, then you do need to submit some testing for us. But there is a waiver available in our application. And then for attending the webinar today, you will receive a waiver for our $90 application fee. So that is automatically, it's as easy as logging in, submit your application, and you bypass the payment screen. So no additional things need to be submitted for that. We just have your information of those of you who attended the webinar today. And then we do have the option, we are test optional. So you can submit your GMAT or GRE scores, but they are not required. And then we do also have a video essay that is optional. And to be honest, we encourage students to submit it. It is not required by any means, so you do not have to, but we love seeing the videos and, you know, getting to know you guys and your personality through some of the questions that we ask. So it's just a fun thing to do. And it should not be stressful, but Andrew, if you'd like to add any additional insight into the application checklist.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. There were a number of questions that came in about some of the application components. So maybe we can just settle here for a minute and answer a couple of questions. GMAT or GRE, as Danielle mentioned, is optional, right? You are not required. You can apply without. However, if you've already taken the exam, and we talked about that 80% range, check your profile relative to the class profile. See if you could have a competitive score. It can only help, right? If you have a score that's competitive, it gives the admissions committee another data point where they can use to evaluate your candidacy, both for admission and scholarship consideration. It will not be a factor in any way if you do not submit. We just have to essentially, evaluate your profile differently without a GMAT or GRE score, right? So we just put weight on different areas of the evaluation if you do not submit a GMAT or GRE. So again, if you're wondering whether you should or should not, you may want to take a practice exam, see how it goes, and then check your profile and your score relative to our class profile. If you are sort of let's say an outlier in the class profile, you have more experience or less work experience, for example, you may want to take the exam and see how it goes, right? Because again, that data point can help provide another bonus, especially if you perform well or close to our average, and you submit that score. It can add that other valuable data point to the consideration. There were a number of questions about transcripts as well, so maybe we can address those quickly. My recommendation is to get a copy of your official transcript, make a copy of it, and upload that to your application. That is technically an unofficial transcript. Okay, we do not require your official transcripts to be mailed or emailed to us with your application, right? You will just be able to upload that directly to your application. So most schools will offer an electronic official copy that you can get a copy of and then upload that to your application. That would be preferred. You are not required to do necessarily a WES evaluation or another evaluation service in order to complete your application. But if you did and you want to upload that because it's a competitive GPA, a 4.0 scale, then you can feel free to upload that transcript as well. But again, not required. We will evaluate your GPA relative to the scale of the institution in your home country. Okay.
And I do want to address one question. If you are reapplying, the process is essentially the same. We just ask that you look at, differences or changes from year to year from applying last year or previous year. What are some of the key things that have changed? And really make sure that you denote that within the application, but systematically everything is the same. You apply online with your information. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. And there are no minimum scores either for the TOEFL, IELTS, for the GMAT, GRE, right? Just check the profile, make sure that your scores are competitive, right? All right.
And now to scholarships and financial aid. I know there were a couple of questions related to this as well. Simon offers merit-based scholarships. About 90% of our enrolled MBA students were awarded a scholarship. And this is something that you designate on your application. So as you're applying, there's a little checkbox that you mark, and it says, yes, I'd like to be considered for a merit-based scholarship. And your application itself, your material, insight, everything that you submit is essentially that scholarship application because it's reviewed holistically. There are federal loans that are available to eligible students. And that this includes federal direct loans, that includes unsubsidized and direct plus loans. And for international students as well, we have different resources available, including a no cosigner loan. So that's insight into scholarships and financial aid. I had some questions related to assistantships. We do not offer assistantships at Simon, and a majority of business schools don't, to my knowledge, as well. But I don't know, Andrew, if you want to expand a little bit on that with assistantships.
Yeah, there are assistantships, but to clarify, we don't offer them with the offer of admission because we want our students to be able to determine how much they can work or want to work during the program. For other schools that may offer an assistantship, you're required to work a certain amount per week, per term, in order to guarantee that funding. And we don't want to do that to you. We want you to be able to decide how much you can work and what's your schedule going to allow, especially as you're navigating and balancing new academic requirements, new social expectations, right? As you're learning and getting to know your classmates, new recruitment and career expectations. And so we want you to be able to navigate all that before you dive in to maybe pulling a part-time job. But there was also a question, I guess, about, fully funded scholarships and our fielding fellowships. I will just say there is a range of scholarships that are available. The majority of students do not receive a full tuition scholarship. They are accessible. There are students who certainly receive full tuition scholarships, but they are also very, very competitive. And so students need to be thinking about, and I think planning early, even now, right, at this stage in your process, as you're looking at your applications, especially if you're admitted, thinking through, okay, how am I going to fund my degree? And during the admissions process, I know we're going to talk about deadlines here next, but as you learn about your decision, you will also find out, if admitted, you'll find out what your scholarship offer is with the offer of admission. There's not a negotiation period. It is final, but you will find out very early. And so that will help inform then, okay, how can I budget? What are my other resources I have accessible to me? And we are here to help and provide some support along the way as well.
Yeah. So as Andrew mentioned, our application deadlines are really split up into different rounds. Our first round deadline is October 15th. Second round is January 5th. Third round is February 15th. Fourth is March 31st. And our fifth round is May 1st. We encourage students to submit your application when you feel like it is the best application that you can put forth. And likewise, just be cautious of the material that needs to be submitted and the deadlines that are up and coming. And then we do have the decision date, which is when we provide you a final decision on your application. And as I mentioned previously, if you're listening to this webinar live, then an application fee waiver will be added to your account in 1 to 2 business days. You do not need to do anything specifically with that. Submit your application, it bypasses the pay screen, because I saw some questions related to that as well.
And the application officially opens September 1st. You may have some early access if you decide to check now, but September 1st is when the application officially opens, as you know here, and you can see from our round 1 window, okay? But you may have a sneak peek if you log in now and try and check out your essays, all right?
So your next step is to connect with us. If you scan this QR code, it'll lead you to this page where there's different places of engagement. So we really, really encourage you guys to not let this be the only time that you connect with us. Please reach out to us. We love to talk to you and chat and learn more about you. So please take advantage of that. Scan the QR code or just follow the link on here as well. We have podcasts. We have student ambassadors that are really lovely that can talk to you about their own student experience, different webinars as well, great events that we host on campus. So we have some coming up. So we definitely encourage you to check out those sites so you can get additional insight into the specific areas. And then you can request additional information one-on-one. If you have a specific, question, we can certainly help with that. And I know we'll have some time here to answer some of the questions that we're feeding into the Q&A. So
great. Thank you, Daniela. Definitely connect with us. We love to chat. Love to see you on campus. If you're outside of the U.S., it might be a little bit more challenging. Of course, we do have some virtual engagement opportunities. But if you are in the U.S., we'd love to host you on campus. Or traveling here, we'd love to host you, of course, as well. There were some questions about the fee waiver with the webinar. And so for participating, as Daniela mentioned, you will get the recording for the webinar within a couple of business days, so likely early next week. You will receive the recording. It will also be posted on our webinar archive on our website. So please take a look at that. And then, but then again, the fee waiver, you will also have that applied to your account. So make sure you apply when you submit your application with the email you used to register for this webinar, and it's applied automatically. Just a reminder there, okay? All right. Well, some great questions. I don't know if there's anything else, Daniela, that popped up that might be really important to highlight. I know there were some specific questions about personal profiles that we didn't get to, but feel free to reach out to our team, and we are happy to help address some of those in more detail. Great.
I'm trying to see here. A lot of them were answered throughout as well.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We do appreciate your time today. I know it goes by so quickly, so please keep in touch. We have some other fantastic webinars upcoming as well, so please take a look at those. Let us know if you have any questions. Connect with us. Again, I'll go back to the previous slide. Definitely connect with us. We'd love to continue the conversation if you have questions, and we look forward to seeing your application soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day.